Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to say thank you for being here, and I'm going to thank our federal partners, our senators, Senator Klobuchar and Smith, well-versed in this, both on the Ag Committee, gives Minnesota an incredible insight into how things are going. Commissioner Peterson, Dr. Hoffman, and a big thank you to Chair Berg and the Kandiyohi County Commissioners in this community for hosting this. We were over listening to the folks at the Command Center, which is made up of Board of Animal Health, Minnesota Department of Agriculture, USDA folks, and then county folks helping host us as we start to deal with the highly pathogenic avian flu. And we knew that this was coming. We saw it show up on the East Coast months ago, once it got to Indiana, and then we knew that it was a matter of time. All of us, Senator Klobuchar and myself, worked on it on the federal level as members of the Ag Committee. At that time then, Lieutenant Governor Smith worked on the 2015 outbreak. And the message that I've heard over there is that we had a lot of lessons learned, that we're doing things a lot better. We are able to do things, and I was really impressed with caring for these producers. As I've said many times, we all know it. The dollar amounts are pretty clear. This is a huge part of Minnesota's economy. The poultry and turkey industry is a huge part of that. It's also a big part culturally of who we are. We're very proud to be the #1 turkey producing state in the nation, but we also know those are a lot of family farms and communities all across Minnesota. After we went over and talked to those folks, they're working long hours, 7 days a week. The USDA team is rotating out as of today, and they'll come in for another 3-week shift. Weather hasn't given us a lot of breaks, so the folks have been pretty busy. We're seeing the outbreak affecting around 2 million birds right now, and the difference is this time is what we're hearing from the experts, and you'll hear from Dr. Hoffman and others, is that the spread is much more through wild birds, and they described it as a popcorn type of effect. It'll pop up in different parts. That's different than we were seeing spread from facility to facility because of the biosecurity measures that were put in place last time. So that has slowed the spread, but has not stopped it. And the industry folks who were here, really grateful for their insights. The folks at the Minnesota Turkey Growers Association, we've been in contact with them since January as we were talking in preparation for this. So the last week of March, when it showed up here, we had it in a backyard flock, and we saw it in a commercial flock, that we were prepared and ready to go. The operation, as I said, is multi-layered. It is working, but I think folks need to recognize the toll it's taking both on the folks responding and especially the producers is pretty high. There is both the economic impact to our producers, and thanks to the federal government's response, I heard in there that we're trying to get folks at least back to zero so that they can repopulate and get going. But the mental health aspects are very trying on this. These are folks that it's their livelihood, it's what they do, and to have to depopulate these flocks is a pretty trying experience. But with that being said, we're hopeful for a little bit of warm weather coming over the weekend. At least the experts tell us that will be helpful in slowing the spread. But I think the public needs to know is there is no risk to public health in this. There's no risk of this entering into the food supply. We get the ability to repopulate, as again we heard in there, will take a little bit of time, but we're able to do that. But also some of the challenges. Interestingly enough, the issue of broadband, be able to work remotely, slowing us down a little bit because of our lack of having broadband border to border and having this county covered the way we should. That was duly noted. Again, you'll hear the federal government's major investments with the Infrastructure Act in the state. We're looking at historic investments to get that done. And then the challenges of workforce. It's just hard. It's hard everywhere. And if we lose these folks, we're going to have to make that commitment to make sure that we can get that workforce. These are incredible communities to live in. These are great opportunities to work in a profession that we all need, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make that happen. So we remain hopeful. The fight is still on. We've got another 4 to 6 weeks probably, maybe a little shorter if we get some decent weather here. But with that being said, the teams are ready. I was really pleased to hear folks who operate in multiple states made the comment from the industry that Minnesota's ability to communicate and work at all levels of government is far ahead of the other states, and that is making a difference. And that's a testament to both industry folks. It's a testament to the local, state, and federal partners, and to the professionals that you're going to hear from in the Minnesota Department of Health and the Board of Animal Health. With that, I'd like to turn it to our partner, our senior senator, Senator Klobuchar.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Governor, and thank you to the commissioners for hosting us, broadband, we got it. Thank you to Commissioner Peterson, Dr. What Tim was just saying couldn't be more true. We heard that repeatedly from some of the national USDA folks, as well as from our producers, that our state excels in working together and not having turf wars and getting things done. As you know, back in 2016, we lost 9 million birds, and now we're at 2 million. We don't know how the weather's going to treat us here and what's happening next, but what we do know is that we're in a much better case in many ways. One, we've learned a lot more about how this is transmitted and what's happening, and we're having a bit of a crazy situation right now. They called it popcorn with where it's hitting in Minnesota. But we know in a better way how to ward it off. Secondly, the indemnification was just a mess last time for farmers and for our producers. And we have learned a lot since then. I measure it by how many calls do I personally get of angry producers, very few, so that's good. And that's because we've ironed out the indemnity front. The third thing is a lot harder. I was recalling to some of our USDA and Minnesota Department of Ag staff who are in there working every day with our producers, how the last time I was out here in Wilmer, a turkey farmer who was acting totally fine when the media was there, the minute they left, he just burst out crying. And he said, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in all my years farming, and just killing the birds in the way we had to do it at the time we had to do it. And that really stuck with me. And they said they're still hearing things like that now, but that things have gotten better in terms of how we're handling it and the standards that are put in place, but also, of course, for preparing people for what's happening. And that doesn't mean the workers still don't need help. This is their livelihood. They don't want to kill their birds at that moment in time, and they don't want to kill them in the ways they had to do back in 2016. So in any case, we've seen improvement. I was just impressed by all the workers. I'm impressed by Minnesota's ability to keep its #1 with turkey to get through this pandemic. Workforce shortages, my answer is getting more people into the jobs where we know we have them, as well as immigration reform. That is for another day. We have refugees that could be coming in from Ukraine who work in our farms all the time. But our #1 message today is that we're on this, we know what's happening, and we'll do everything to have the back of Minnesotans. Thanks. Senator Smith.
Great, thank you. Thank you all very much for being here today. We're here in Kandiyohi County. Thank you, commissioners, for welcoming us. The high-path avian influenza is affecting, I think, by last count, 17 counties in Minnesota, over 40 sites. And so to be able to be here today and to hear from producers and the health experts and the Emergency Operations Center to how they're handling it is incredibly helpful to us, so that Amy and I can go back to Washington and make sure that we are being the very best federal partners that we can be in this effort. I want to add my thanks to the folks from USDA who are here today and have been on the ground helping to assist with the emergency response, and also to the folks at USDA back in Washington who have been working to make sure that the indemnification for poultry producers is working as best as possible. We've got more work to do there, but I think we have made some real headway. A couple other things that I heard that give me hope as we think about making it through this emergency. We've got great communications here, and that is helping a lot to make sure that the scarce resources that we have aren't wasted. We have better tools than we had in 2015. I remember very vividly what it was like when this struck in we were here in 2015. We have better tools all across the board for addressing the needs that we have. We have better planning and practice, thanks a lot to the work that Amy did in the 2018 Farm Bill to support planning. And that means that the EOC folks have been trying out different scenarios even before this happened, so that they were ready to be responsive as quickly as they could. And last of all, really significant improvements that the producers have made in biosecurity, which is one of the reasons why we're not seeing transmission from barn to barn. We're seeing it more from wild birds, and we hope at the end of the day that that will minimize the impact of this. Though, as everyone has already said, this has been really significant already. 2 million plus birds probably lost at this point, and the mental health issues that poses for folks in barns and folks all across the board who are dealing with this. So we're glad to be able to be here to help in every way that we can, and we'll continue to do everything we can to get through this. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Smith. I want to apologize to Dr. Thompson. I called her Dr. Hoffman. The senators and I just came from Cortland, where Hoffman Construction is finishing up
We got a lot going
the
on.
final stretch of Highway 14, and I will just in full disclosure admit I was very excited about that. It's a personal achievement of mine. But we do have experts here, and Commissioner Peterson, again, our county board folks are here. It really is the way this is supposed to work. I don't think, and I really appreciate Senator Smith mentioning the emergency operations centers and our county emergency managers. These are folks that last week when I was in Teope, that person gets the call and it's recovery from a tornado. Up here they get a call at the end of March and it's setting up a command center with about 40 people over there with screens up and all kinds of things happening in labs going full blast. And that's the emergency operations centers. And what you're hearing is these lessons learned. The one thing we heard, and this just makes really good sense, but you until you go through these, you don't know. Having a case manager that's the contact point for that one producer, so that family has one phone number and someone who will pick up the call at any time and helps manage from depopulation to financial help to mental health services or whatever. And the team has said, you know, that's good, but as we go to more and more places, we need more people to do that. But I'm just really proud of the folks who are doing that, knowing that a producer doesn't have to go through the bureaucracy, doesn't get a busy signal or no one's there or I don't know who you should talk to. It's one person and they get answers, and we're hearing from them that that's making a big difference. With that, we'd be glad to answer any questions.
Commissioner or Doctor, what is the trajectory of this thing? Can you tell us where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed? Do you have an idea or a timeline?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. There are many different factors that are weighing in on the answer to that question. So this virus is carried by wild waterfowl. We're waiting for those wild waterfowl to make their way through the Midwest. Right now, land of 10,000 lakes, we've had some inclement weather. They're stopping by and they're leaving behind some of this virus. So that is part of getting through all of this. Is the environment needs to warm up and we need to heat up and we need to dry out. So getting that process in place to get the wild waterfowl out of here, we can't do anything about that, but they will finish their migratory, the patterns that they go through, and we're going to get a drier, warmer environment.
And just as a quick follow-up from one of you, it sounds like it's better that it's from wild birds, the spread, as opposed to flock. Can you explain why that's better?
It shows us that the industry since 2015 here in Minnesota and our backyard flock owners have really stepped up their biosecurity, meaning that our farmers and our backyard flock owners aren't tracking the virus from farm to farm to farm. What we're seeing is individual introductions from the wild waterfowl. So the cases hopefully will stay down. There'll be less cases because we don't have that farm to farm spread.
Thank you.
I want to just add one thing on the cases and how long, Tom, is that. In 2015, though, we did see cases steady all the way through May, and then it kind of wound down through June, middle of June. So just thinking of where we are in this, we may not even be halfway through. But again, it's been acting different. But looking at that, we could be with this for a little while yet.
Governor, you signed the $1 million avian influenza assistance bill. Do you know what that will be used for? Any designated purposes?
Yeah, I'll have the commissioner talk about the specifics, but I do want to thank the legislature. This moved in about 72 hours. It was very clear that it was articulated by the experts, the need for this, and the House and the Senate, I believe, unanimously passed that through. And we were just discussing, it's pretty broad, so Thom.
Yeah, so, and again, thank you to the legislature and the governor. I was very concerned as the legislature went on a 10-day break. We have an ag emergency account, and our folks that run that were worrying about, running low. And the last thing they need to worry about right now is our resources, as they have to make decisions on the fly of what to do. We have good preparations, but the equipment, the staffing, manpower, the Department of Agriculture, we redeploy many employees who need to work overtime. They work Easter. And so that adds up very quickly. And so I really appreciate it. I also want to mention the legislators in this area, Representative Baker, Senator Lang, have been very engaged on this. And, we may need more. We're going to have to evaluate that in the coming days before the legislature adjourns on May 23rd. So we're working with that. That emergency account, though, also we also can do expenditures to the Board of Animal Health too, as well as we partner with them.
Could I just add from a federal perspective, I want to thank the governor for getting that bill done on the state, but we also on the federal level have provided grants over the year under the bill that Tina mentioned that I led with Senator Cornyn, which is the Animal Disease and Disaster Prevention, Surveillance, and Animal Rapid Response Act. That Minnesota's gotten $2.3 million under that. And that was designed to be able to put these plans in place. And we will be heading into a new farm bill soon, and it's going to allow us to get the input from producers and from everyone here so that we can make that even better. But it's a partnership. There's USDA employees in there, and there's state employees in there. And that's put us in a lot better place.
That's right. Another question?
A question for Commissioner Peterson. Of course, as you know, there's 2 mental health practitioners for rural Minnesota. Is there any effort on the department's side to try and leverage some other resources that we have available to make sure that producers that are impacted are getting the mental health care that they need, especially since this can be a very personal and trying thing for them?
Well, thanks, Scott, for bringing that question. It's so important. I've taken those calls this year, and those are just heart-wrenching to talk to producers. I think that's been the hardest part of my job is some of those. And so the good thing is that our state has invested over the years in having those 2 mental health counselors, as well as a 24-hour hotline that farmers can call, our Minnesota Stress line. They can also, we added this last year, they can text. They can email. Some people just don't feel comfortable, calling. And so we've tried to add different ways that they can do that. The other thing we've learned too with a lot of the producers and also the workers, this is also the workers on the farm, incredibly stressful, is that our case managers, people like that, we really trained them to ask them twice, ask them 3 times, because the first time, we'll tell people, have you used the line or have you tried it? And they'll say, think about it. But once they finally do, the people will tell me what a relief that is. So we're fortunate that Minnesota has those kind of resources that other states don't. And so it's a top priority to, get that out and share that. We have been. Thank you.
Can I just add one thing, Governor, on that? It's so great that the Minnesota Department of Agriculture has these resources. I just want to remind everybody who might be listening that, the thing to remember is that everybody needs help at one time or another, and asking for help is a sign of strength, not of weakness. And the work that we have done also at the federal level to support improved access to mental health care, especially in rural communities, is bearing fruit. The work that we've done to expand access to tele-mental health is also really great. And I think, as Thom is saying, it will help folks who maybe just can't quite get themselves to the place where they want to go into someplace, that they can make a phone call. So just want to make that point.
Are there any producers here that want to talk?
I don't think
They went back to work.
Hey, Governor, can you give us some context? We've heard about the mental health issues, obviously, but what is the potential financial impact on these producers? And why should people in the metro area who look at this as a rural or a farm problem, why should they be concerned about this?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Peterson maybe on the numbers on this, Thom. I think the numbers that this industry's, nearly $1 billion industry. It makes up about 150 million in exports that we do. It creates a lot of job, and it's culturally who we do. One of the things, Minnesota's economies you saw, we're the 3rd fastest state on job creation this year, and we have the 5th lowest unemployment rate. The reason that happens is the diversity of the economy. You can work in medical technology, but you can work in a very diverse agricultural economy. And I think it all matters to us. One is, as we always say this, we have the safest, most affordable, abundant food supply in the world. And as we're seeing globally, that can be shattered a bit. And so this is an industry that provides nutritious food at affordable prices for all Minnesotans. It provides lots of jobs. It generates growth in these communities, and all of us are stronger because of it. And so I really think as you're watching this, if any industry suffers on this, this impacts all of us. We all eat, and we're all on the other end of that, and we have fewer and fewer producers. And we really worried. We worried last year during the drought, especially with our livestock producers, that folks leave the industry, and we lose these folks. We're losing dairy farms every week, and that, one, it concentrates the industry, but it also makes it more difficult for rural communities to thrive. So it matters. It matters, and these are folks that are working hard. These are folks, again, those who grew up on farms maybe understand it. This is who they are. This is the work they do, the work they love. They put their heart and soul into it. And to watch this thing come through and just wipe out all the work you're doing, because that's literally what it's doing, it's a big toll. So I think showing some empathy here, but understanding, as we said, the food supply is safe. Get out and buy poultry, turkey. We've got it. Do that. That makes a difference. Eggs. It makes a difference.
Time for one more thing.
I'm wondering, my name is Amanda, I'm from Pioneer PBS. Maybe for Commissioner Peterson, I'm wondering if you could comment on perhaps the way that poultry is grown in this state. Does that make these flocks more susceptible to the spread of the avian influenza? And if so, is there a better way to be doing it?
It's small ones, right? Small backyards.
Yeah, so we've got a very diverse array of poultry and the different barns that they're in. And again, I mentioned before, backyard flocks. Some of these flocks might be outdoors, some of them might be indoors. Some raise pheasants. So we have the chickens and the layers and the turkeys. So there's a combination of different ways that these poultry are grown. So the real key is, though, the wild waterfowl and the virus coming in. It really doesn't matter if that chicken or turkey or whatever species is indoors or outdoors. If they're exposed to the virus, then they will probably become or succumb to the disease. So, but there's a wide variety of many different types of grow-out facilities and different facilities in the state of Minnesota.
We got time for one more.
Can you give us your name again? Can you give us your name?
It's not Hoffman.
Yeah, I know what it's not. I'm trying to figure out what it is.
I'm Beth Thompson. I'm state veterinarian.
Thanks, Dr. Thom.
You've been talking about that it's coming from wild birds, and a lot of times we're hearing it's waterfowl, ducks, geese, that kind of thing. But last week, the U.S. Raptor Center from the U came out about, hey, you should probably be taking down your bird feeders. So are we worried that it's also being spread through like tiny little sparrows and finches that are getting into barns? And should people stop feeding their backyard birds?
And that is an excellent question. So kudos to the University of Minnesota Raptor Center. They do great work. And what they have seen through this last season or this last few months with this virus is that their raptors are being affected. They mainly have neurological signs, but bald eagles, hawks, owls, all sorts of raptors. I do know that the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources has guidance on bird feeders, and generally speaking, it's a little bit of common sense that needs to come into play. Certainly if you've got a lot of waterfowl in your yard and have bird feeders, maybe it's not a good idea to put them out. So yeah, it's a combination of listen to the experts, again, Raptor Center, Department of Natural Resources, and then look at your own situation.
But we're not worried that that songbirds and such are spreading it, or...
And I apologize. Yeah, so the songbirds, the research really isn't in on the songbirds. We haven't seen the good research that they are being affected. So stay tuned for that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you all. Again, thank you, County. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.